Hello my friends and welcome back to Ushanka Show. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sergey and back in 1971 I was born in the USSR. And in today's video we're gonna talk about Vladimir Putin. If you follow my channel, you know that I, as many other people, was caught completely by surprise when Putin decided to start the war against the Ukraine. The main reasons why I thought it didn't make any sense is, first of all, because Ukraine is large country. It's the size of a Texas, with population around 44 million people. It's extremely hard to occupy such a large territory. And of course, the second main reason was the timing. Attacking in February creates a lot of logistic problems. You can't use anything but the paved roads. So bringing fuel, bringing ammunition, bringing new troops becomes a nightmare as more army moving inside of the country. And also, of course, days are short and nights are long, so that creates another nightmare for any army operating in the winter. And at the time of recording this video, today is March 5th, the 10th day of war. This is what we see. Russian troops pretty much moving in columns along the highways. Only down south, where it's drier, they can move, bypassing the roads, bypassing towns. So they stuck on the highways. They struggle if the vehicles get stuck in the mud, run out of fuel, they abandon vehicles. So all that kind of made sense, but still Putin decided to attack. If you watch my video Putin's New World, where I discussed this interesting Russian article that was published on February 26, 2 days after beginning of the war, and it was later taken down, and then other bloggers and even mass media outlets picked up the story, it kind of gives you explanation why Putin actually decided to start the war. It's a way bigger, scarier project. Is final solution of Ukrainian question. And that article also caught me by surprise, although as many people mentioned, Putin talked about this great Russia and reuniting Belarus, Russia and Ukraine. He talked about it for many years, but I never took it seriously. So I want to talk about it right now. The reason I never took Putin seriously for these blurbs here and there about great Russia, because yes, he talked the talk, but he never walked the walk. You know, like picture a priest in a church that could be just telling some hardcore religious stuff while in church, but then you see him going into a strip club and you're like, yeah, guy just, he's just yapping in the church because that's what his flock needs to hear, but he never means it because I know what he's doing on the side. Putin was doing the similar thing, and that's what really threw me off. Yes, after Putin became a president of Russia, and for extended period of time, right, he kind of at the helm since 1999. He had a lot of talks about rebuilding Russia and restoring family values, and of course the Russian church under Putin became a super powerful force. They started this skriepy, I even don't know how to translate it into English, so this almost like staples that hold in society together. So he had all that talk. But at the same time, it's a well-known fact that Mr. Putin really likes expensive watches. And people who are in the business of this, luxury Swiss watches, they have a list of all the watches he has at the Patek Philippe. It's Lange & Sonne Turbograph. He owns that watch. Its value about $560,000. Only 50 of them is made. He likes Briquette. He likes black paint. So he likes extremely expensive watches. And people calculated that the total amount of watches he owns is close to like $700,000 or $800,000, while his salary as the president of Russia is only $100,000 a year. So a guy probably had to starve himself for 10 years just to earn enough money to buy his nice watches. So that's about talking the talk. He talked about Russian values, but he definitely preferred nice watches from Switzerland. And speaking of family values, you probably know that Putin divorced back in 2013 his wife, that he was married to for 30 years. So technically, Vladimir Putin is quite a desirable and valuable Russian bachelor. But for anyone in Russia, it's obvious that he has a girlfriend. Her name is Alina Kabayeva. She is a gymnast or former gymnast. She's way younger than Putin. He was born in 1952. She was born in 1983. So she's 31 years younger. There are rumors that she gave birth to twins, that it's Vladimir Putin's kids. And she became extremely wealthy. She started working for government, so she's doing great. So definitely there's your family values right there. And of course, after Panama Papers leak, we discovered that the richest musician in the world is not Elton John, it's not John Bon Jovi, it's some person from Russia named Sergei Raldugin, who owns like $3 billion, something like that. I don't think he sold a single CD in his life, a single album, but he happens to be a good friend of Vladimir Putin, and somehow he keeps at the offshore accounts some insane amount of money, something like $3 billion or something like that. So knowing all the facts that Vladimir Putin is probably the richest man in the world, which with his salary of $100,000 a year, it's all about corruption, that he is dating young gymnasts and having children out of wedlock. He likes fancy watches, so he definitely, whatever he's talking about Great Russia, I never took it seriously because he definitely didn't walk the walk. But of course, I was wrong. We have war in Ukraine right now. Which brings the question, why? Okay, that article said why, but why did Putin decide to, he has an amazing life. He's rich, he is powerful, he's an absolute dictator in Russia, he controls everything in the largest country in the world, he has young girlfriends, he had fancy watches. Why would he risk everything with this crazy war? I thought about it, and I have a couple of versions, and I'm curious what you guys think, so please put that in your comments. So this is what I think. So number one is Putin legacy. As I mentioned, he was born in 1952, so he will turn 70 this year in 2022. I believe he was born in August. So there is a possibility, it's just because of the age, it's a round number, and Russians like to celebrate these round numbers. Or maybe he discovered he's terminally ill, cancer, something like that. So now he's horrified that his legacy will be, that was the president who became the richest guy in the world, dating younger ladies, having fancy watches, but what did you do for your country? But then of course it brings kind of the following question, because this war, these preparations was going on for years, right? Building the Crimean bridge was not because he wanted to make Russian people easy access to the peninsula. He wanted his military had the easy access to the peninsula. And the second explanation, that Putin for real wants to restore the Soviet Union, USSR 2.0, so somewhat maybe under different title, just Great Russia. And he wanted to do it for a long time and failed to check when did he restore the anthem, because after Russia became Russian Federation, not part of Soviet Union anymore, they had a new anthem. But then when Putin became a president, he made them to restore the Soviet tune Союз нерушимый, but they put different words because now we don't have Soyuz, we have only Russia. But he restored the Soviet anthem with new wording, and actually quite a few people then packed their luggage and they left Russia because they said, I know what's coming next, and they were correct. Okay, so I just checked, and man, he was on it right away. He became president of Russia in 1999. Next year, in the end of 2000, he pushed changing the Russian anthem, gimn as we say, and they used the old melody, old music with the new words. So right away when he became the leader of Russia, he changed the anthem. So it's obvious that Vladimir Putin been missing Soviet Union, and I think I understand why after I studied a little bit his biography. It actually brings us back to this whole discussion about how the Soviet people life changed after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and in most cases, like in case of my family, it didn't change much. We were pretty much poor during the Soviet days, and we remained kind of poor afterwards, but there was way more freedom. But my family was, both parents were full-time workers, both labor unions, and we barely were scraping by. But it was a comfortable environment because we didn't worry about housing. I mean, we struggled because we purchased cooperativная квартира, cooperative apartments. We already have videos about it. But generally, Soviet people were poor, but it was comfortable to be poor because no one worried about housing. It was cheap, and some basic foodstuffs were inexpensive. When Soviet Union went bye-bye, things changed, and it became uncomfortable to be poor. You could get rich, and you can have a nice car, boats and everything else, but if you remained poor, it became uncomfortable because housing costs skyrocketed. But when it comes to Vladimir Putin, he lost everything, including his pride. He was one of those people in the Soviet Union, they were elites. By 1985, he was working in German Democratic Republic. He was working for KGB at that time. So he was like a resident for the foreign intelligence in Dresden. At that time, it was Eastern Germany. And it's an amazing job. I mean, you're not like you're risking your life being a spy in some capitalist country. Even DDR, right, German Democratic Republic, we call it GDR. So you're just making good money, easy job, just a paper pusher. And you work in Germany, so you have access to Western goods. He already had car, a Lada 6 model, and he was getting paid really well. So he was a Soviet elite, and he was a KGB, so with access to secrets. So I mean, it's just a Soviet James Bond, and everything was just fantastic. Retirement was coming soon, with good pension. Like, he was just doing fantastic in the Soviet Union. Then the Berlin Wall came down, Germany reunited. Putin had to leave Germany in 1990. He returned to St. Petersburg, Leningrad at that time, and everything collapsed. He left KGB in 1991, right when this whole mess started. So suddenly he has nothing besides his car that he brought from Germany. Now he's back in Leningrad, and I don't know, probably Dresden was a way nicer place to live. He doesn't have that cool job anymore, and he admitted recently that he had to drive his car at night as a taxi driver so he can make some extra money. So picture this. I think he was a polkovnik, so like colonel. I can't say this word correctly in English. So this guy who was like a top KGB officer now has to drive his car and, taking prostitutes down this way, some drunk party that way. So I can imagine his hate, his how he was just not feeling good because he was a top dog in the Soviet Union and suddenly he turned to nothing. So that's probably why he longs so much for the Soviet Union and why he hates West so much. But he got lucky in Leningrad. He met his former teacher from college, from his university, Anatoly Sobchak, who that time was the mayor of Leningrad. So he got into the government, and then he started making money. Because back then, if you're in the government and you know what you're doing, you can get really rich really quick. And from there on, he was just climbing up and up and up until he became the president of Russia in 1999, so 8 years later. So maybe, just maybe, it was his plan all along back from 1999 or 2000, he wanted to restore the Soviet Union in some form or shape. He wanted to stick it to the West that he hated so much because the West took everything from him. Everything money-wise, status-wise, pride-wise. So all these years, for 22 years, he worked for that one single purpose, is to restore the glorious Soviet Union in the form of Great Russia, Union of Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, maybe Moldova along the way, maybe a couple other former republics. So that's probably sounds like the most reasonable explanation of all his actions. And along the way, he enjoyed the luxuries of the Western world. He had a little taste of it while he was in Germany, so he got into this whole fancy watches. I mean, why would you want to have a watch that $500,000 watch on your wrist? Like, I see just no reason for it. So, it was like a really nice maskirovka, like a distraction. Oh, look, I'm just a corrupt a Russian politician. I like fancy watches. I like young girlfriends. Probably like some nice cars. I think he's had a weak spot for Mercedes. So the West kind of like, okay, we got a corrupt president of Russia that just steals money from his people. We're cool with that. And all along he was prepping for his big hoorah day when he gonna restore the great Soviet Union. So here we are, February of 2022. Ukrainians are killing Russians. Belarusians are helping Russians to kill Ukrainians. West is kind of doing this pee-pee dance, throwing little sanctions here and there, although amount of damage to what Putin initially was planning and what kind of feedback he got. So he was fighting against Ukraine joining NATO, and as a result he has Finland considering joining NATO, Sweden considering joining NATO. Now Moldova just applied for European Union membership. Georgia just applied. Ukraine is applied. So the blowback is just humongous, and I truly hope that we all prevail over Putin. Well, my friends, it's all I have for you today. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. I love reading your comments and communicate with you that way. Once again, thank you for supporting Ushanka Show. I appreciate everyone who reached out asking about my family in Ukraine. Some people even donated money for my family, so I send it to my brother. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye. Hey, by the way, cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. Just a friendly reminder that my book American Diaries is available on amazon.com, or shoot me an email if you would like to have a signed copy. Thank you. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet